Yeah, still gutted by the end. I think anytime you get to the Final Four, it feels like a missed opportunity. I've been to two finals, talked to a lot of coaches that have won, and I think if you can get to that point, you legitimately have a chance to win. You've got a good enough group. It's just, finding a way to get through, whether it's an extra goal, an extra save, special teams. I mean, we'll dissect everything as we go. But we were really close, and I don't think it was one thing. I mean, it was, you can point to a couple things in the Edmonton series that probably cost us. Those same things were strengths in the Colorado series or the Vegas series that got us through. That's just playoff hockey.
You ended in the same spot you ended last year, but when you look at the road to get there,
yeah,
I imagine you can take a lot of positives from the regular season, from
the
playoff run. How do you compare the two?
Yeah, I it's a great point. Same spot, but a totally different year and different feel. I felt, not that last year didn't feel legitimate, but I felt like we were close, but weren't in that group last year. I felt this year we were right in the middle of that group, and for us as coaches, we've got to look and say, okay, how do we get to the top of that group now? As players, they've got to look and what do we do as players in order to find another level? And same thing on the team building end. What do we need? So I think that's what organizations do in the off season. I heard Paul Maurice talk about their kind of what they did over the off season last year after losing in the Stanley Cup Finals. I think that's what a good organizations do. You look at everything and see how you can find another level.
Pete, I know it's not fun, but you've gone through this before.
Yeah.
How long in the past did it take you maybe to transition and move on, and does this feel different compared to previous times?
It's tough. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I really loved coaching this group. I think there's a lot of groups. Anytime you go on a run with a team, you build relationships and you get attached to that group. But I really enjoyed this group, probably for a lot of reasons. Obviously, Joe Pavelski and Jamie Benn and some of the leadership in there. But I also loved some of the young players and what they brought. We had a great mix. It felt like a really special group this year. So, that's always tough to move on from, because it's not going to be the same next year.
When you look at some of the numbers that didn't look good, the home record or the power play, do you sit there and see anything that you can explain? Because we've talked about home and road, and they just, I don't know. Is there anything you look at?
Well, we're going to look at all those things. We're 24 hours out, so ask me that in September, and we'll talk. At the same time, you're pointing to a couple numbers that were bad. There's an awful lot of really good numbers in there, including in those areas. I mean, our power play and penalty kill were top 10 in the league the last 2 years in a row. Which I'm not sure any other organization has that. So, I think there's a fine line you've got to walk there where you're looking. And like I said, I think some of those areas you pointed out helped us get through some of the tough teams we faced early in the playoffs. So there's definitely things we've got to get better at, but we'll start diving into that. And we've got, unfortunately, a little longer than we wanted to look at those things.
You mentioned the youth and how they kind of came through the season and how they played big parts of your postseason for you guys. I guess, what is the benefit to them having another run like this? And do you feel like you guys are set to come back just as strong next season, given that experience?
Yeah, I think we are, but you have to do it, and that's always easier said than done, but I think with the growth of our young players, with the experiences we've had the last couple years. I think we have all the potential in the world to be as good or better and try and make that next step. But you have to come back and do it again. You have to start and make the playoffs, and guys have to play up to their potential, and you have to get the proper amount of rest because we've gone on 2 deep runs and haven't won, and that has a toll on you, including on the injury front. We've got some guys that are banged up and are going to have some procedures and things over the summer. How do they come back? So there's still, yes, I'm really optimistic. I love on paper what's coming back, but we got to start and do it all again.
Can you give us any update on the injuries? Is that something Jim?
No, that's something Jim will get into. We're still doing exit medicals and all those things.
Last year, when you lost to Vegas, I remember you all talked about some things you could take from the Golden Knights, whether it was the depth scoring, their defense, and Jim really did kind of focus on that in the offseason.
Yeah. From
Edmonton, is there anything that you look at that you may want to model off of going into the offseason?
Can we get Connor McDavid?
Sure.
You know what? It's a great question, Leah. I think I think depth wins at this time of year. And I think that's proven every year. On defense and up front. And, you can never have enough of it.
I know you guys talked a lot about not taking things as excuses, whether it was the travel, the time off between series, injuries, etc., and that next man up mentality. But do you feel like you really had like the best group you could have had deep into the playoffs? Or
what do you mean from an injury point of view?
Do you feel like you were hampered in that sense?
I think everyone's hampered. No, you don't get to the Final Four without being compromised and having guys that are compromised injury-wise. And so, but that's all part of the journey. You got to overcome that, and that's where that depth is critical.
For Joe Pavelski, whether this is it for him or not, how do you reflect on getting to coach him in your career, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, one of the highlights of my coaching career, was when I walked in the door in San Jose, and I didn't know Joe at all. Quickly in conversations with players in the room and people around the team, we made him captain. And I think probably that says more about Joe Pavelski than anything. You had 2 former NHL captains in that room, Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau, who are both Hall of Fame players. And they both said Joe Pavelski should be captain, which is, an unbelievable anointing of he wasn't a young player, but a still relatively young player, to have 2 guys like that say this is the guy. That probably says more about him and his character and what he stands for than anything anyone could say. So and then from there, just again, consummate pro. Just the highlight of my coaching career was working with him, and I'm so glad I got the opportunity to come back and do it again after San Jose here for couple of years.
You were pretty close. Do you talk to him about his decision at all?
I have, just not in any influence, but we've had conversations. Yeah.
Outside of the on ice impact that he has had, what do you think are going to be the fingerprints of his influence on your team moving forward?
Oh man, where do you start? How you prepare for a game. Probably the biggest thing is how you can enjoy the game, under the pressure of having to perform to your contract and win games and win Stanley Cups. You've still got to enjoy the ride. And I think that's the great thing that Joe has found the balance of. And I think he learned that from other guys, but you've got to enjoy the day-to-day grind of what we do for a living, and not let it bury you. And he does that as well as anybody. He knows how to shut a game off and, get a card game going and have a beer and, have a nice dinner or relax or go golfing. That's a huge part. And I would hope our young guys, got a piece of that.
At the same time, his preparation.
No, second to none. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how much does
Yeah.
that influence? Like, you see him drag other players out on the ice a half hour before
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, his work, when it's time to work, he works. He's got that. There's a time to play and a time to work, and he's got both those things figured out. And
As
I
a
think,
coach, I was gonna say, how important?
yeah,
Like, you sit there and see the tips, and then you see he
Yeah.
does this 200 times a day.
yeah,
It really does. Like, doing it 200 times a day doesn't influence how it happens in the game.
for sure. And then that's rubbed off on, I think, all our guys, not just our young players. I think our veteran guys see that too. So I think his fingerprints are going to be all over this for a long time.
At the very beginning of camp, you guys talked about, you set the tone for everybody to take a little bit less accolades for
Yeah.
themselves, but put that over the team. Talk about how this group did embrace that and how that can continue
Yeah.
to carry forward.
Yeah. Well, I think we've, that was our mantra this year, but it really started a year ago, when we had conversations with Jamie Benn, about playing less. And I think the great thing that you learn through that sacrifice is you don't have to give up as much personal accolades and points and statistics as you feel you do by taking a little bit less and doing a little bit less in some of those areas. And I think some of those guys have had career years, like Jamie, with a little bit less. And, Matt Duchesne, played probably 3-4 minutes a night less than he has in his entire career, still had a great year, 25 goals and, 70 points. So, they don't have to go hand in hand. And I think you have to live that sometimes to recognize it. I'll still get my stuff, and I can do it, by being, a part of something bigger.
When you look at the year Jake had,
Mhm.
ups and the downs, what do you hope that he?
Yeah.
takes away from this?
Well, one, really proud of him. I think in his own words, probably the toughest year of his career, as far as adversity goes, and questioning himself and riding confidence highs and lows. So I'm just really proud. And I think he's going to be better for it. I think this is something every pro goes through, especially pro goalies. So it was almost a necessity, and to feel, what that felt like, how I got myself out of it, and just really proud of how he dug in and got himself back upright. And, I thought he was great in the playoffs.
And how much we'll have in a real off season this time.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be huge. And let's be honest, that was the reason I think he had the adversity he had. He missed the entire off season with surgery, came back, and then had another injury. So, I think the healthy off season, but I think what he went through this year is going to make him better. He's going to be a better goalie for it, but he's also going to be a better, he's going to have a better career for learning how to deal with it.
Chris Stanley, what has he meant, and how
Yeah.
important is it to keep him around?
Yeah, we'd love to have him back. Changed our team when he came in, and in a lot of different ways. But we were a different team. That's probably the best compliment I can give him, that you add one guy to a key position like that, and we were a different team from that point on. And that's because of all the things he brought to the table. Okay. Thanks, guys. Yeah, have a great summer. Yeah.